G'day ladies and gents, Cubic Media here. The Copper Rush is kicking off with people like Red Nomster taking a dig at me old mate Mumbo for not building the optimal layout for a Copper Golem sorter. And as the one guy has done basically everything except building an ideal Copper Golem sorter, I thought I might throw my hat into the ring and take a crack at a design. My first step is to not even play the game. We're going to need to figure out what we are sorting, which means we need to build an item layout. I have an idea for exactly what I want, a multi-item sorter sort of like this one, which can sort every item in the game. Copper Golems are quite unique in that they don't suffer from the same challenges of most item sorters, allowing them to sort items like unstackables, which is actually pretty huge. So I decompiled the entire creative inventory from Minecraft's source code, applied a combination of Hermitcraft world data and Minecraft's attribute system to rank items by their associations with one another. Then I used iterative Levain clustering to sort the items into 36 partitions of no more than 50 items each. To actually bring this data into a Minecraft world, I built a Scarpet application which stole code from the Storage Tech Aid program which first appeared on my channel in How to Build the Ultimate Storage. And just like that, we have an item set for every survival attainable item in Minecraft 1.21.8. It was so simple, I can't believe Red Nomster didn't think of doing all that. No, you're building it wrong! In all seriousness though, the boson sorter could have applications in some higher end storage tech. For example, using the idea, I made this system of cart-eating item filters, which could theoretically sort items with a pretty decent throughput. The only problem is that the directionality of the design from the golems always picking the southeast direction as the unassigned chest makes for connecting these modules together a bit of a headache. Also, as Mumbo rightly points out, it sacrifices a lot of the ergonomics even when it doesn't need to. After doing a bunch of my own testing in the latest snapshot, the Copper Golems have this really smart system of searching the chest in a specific order provided they are aligned in a single axis. As Red Nomster points out, the direction that golems sort the chest tends to be a bit unpredictable. But as long as you stack the chest in a single direction without any deviation from that axis, then the ordering becomes very prominent. Given it's much easier to search inventories in a line than around a central hub, the ergonomic benefits of the linear layout far outweighs the cost of waiting for the golems to move back and forth. With the behavior of the golems properly figured out, the next step is to not build our design in the latest snapshot because designing things is a pain in the butt without mods. Much better. I can no-clip through blocks, I can use item scroller, and I can use Axiom's utilities. 36 partitions for our item sorter was a very deliberate choice as we can divide the storage into 4 sides, each with 9 chests. This is because our golems will sequentially search all 9 of these chests with the assigned items, before finally dumping the item in the unassigned chest for it to be carried to the next side. Convention would suggest that we use these impulse style item filters in order to provide the hopper locking so that our sets retain their items. However, when we consider sorting unstackable items, we encounter a problem with this, as now the chests have varying fill levels and the signal strength is overflowing all over the place. Unironically, these dustless filters I demonstrated in the previous video can get around this issue as they are toggle states, meaning they only respond to changes in the container state and do not communicate that state to adjacent slices. So our dustless filters can monitor a variable container threshold whilst being tiled side by side. However, there is unfortunately a fatal flaw with the dustless item filter. Because they are toggle states, let's say that I'm a copper golem and I start chucking items into the container. Eventually, at some point, I'm going to add an item at the exact point that it goes to switch states, and then it misses that the container has gone from below threshold to above threshold very quickly, and now our toggle state is stuck in the wrong state. Even in small scale testing, the problem appears quite prominently. So unfortunately, despite being such an elegant mechanism, the dustless filters are going to have to be trashed. What we are going to need is an impulse style filter with a variable threshold and a continuous signal throughput to the hopper locking. And this means we need to get a signal strength into the side of the comparator in order to provide subtraction. Which means as it stands, this mechanism is free wide tileable, which is definitely not ideal. What would you consider to be a more monumental task? Assigning every item in the game to multi-item partitions? Or designing a simple item filter? If you guessed assigning the items, then you're wrong. Designing this tileable filter was one of the most painful experiences of my existence. It took every ounce of my Italian heritage to make spaghetti redstone that can route a redstone signal through the subtraction circuits in a way that is tileable and responsive within 8 game ticks. But I got there, eventually. Anyway, I slapped this bad boy into a functional storage layout and by god it's hideous. But there should be a functional multi-item sorter with input handling that can handle every item in Minecraft as of 1.21.8. All I need to do is port this world to the latest snapshot and add the copper golems. I'm going to use 12 golems in each section, with the vines to eliminate collisions. But you might be thinking, what if the golems overload the containers? Well, there's this neat trick. If our item filters can only extract items at hopper speed, then you should also make sure that the items are only being presented to the copper golems at hopper speed. That way, it's impossible for the items to accumulate over time. This is an optimization known as vertical integration, where it's extremely important to make sure that every process in your system can handle the same throughput to avoid bottlenecks. Speaking of vertical integration, here is the input handling for the storage. We have an item shulker splitter that redirects shulker boxes into this unloader. This means we can just throw junk into these chests and then they will be input into the storage through a single item stream that gets delivered to the copper golems. Approaching hopper speed is the goal here, as it's the fastest we can realistically sort items without resorting to more sophisticated mechanisms. To test our new optimized copper golem sorter, let's use the good old Hermitcraft Season 8 unsorted items. Perfect for stress testing your average item sorter. For reference, Wavetech's main storage item sorter breaks every time I feed this item set into it. I don't know what the Hermits did in Season 8 to make the items so caustic, but main storage no likey. This command block will increment a counter on a 1 second interval, meaning we can simply run an extended test, count the number of seconds, count the number of items, and determine our sorting speed. Let's go ahead and start chucking in some items in order to start the test. Here comes the item stream, and immediately our copper golems are getting to work. If we start tick warping, we'll get to see something rather majestic. The copper golems throw through each section like a literal conveyor belt, cross-referencing every item of every chest, until the correct container is found, at which point the stream will terminate and go back to the start. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a really satisfying way to sort items. Like, whoever was designing the AI for the copper golem have done a remarkably good job, to be honest, as they seem to be surprisingly consistent. And look at that, absolutely no items in the overflow. This storage is sorting every single item in the game. But yep, we're definitely unloading the boxes. Copper golems must be pretty efficient in their use of computer resources, as I'm tick warping at around 2 MSPT. That's about 500 ticks per second, or 25 times the game's default speed. Oh, the counter stopped, but the golems are still going. They should stop any moment now. And the system's idle. Having a look in the overflow, and no items reach the overflow. Although the sediment slice did get pretty close to overflowing, so I wouldn't have been surprised if I eventually saw items appearing in the overflow. But look at that! Ingredients. We've even got potions being sorted, unstackable items like tools and armor. That is incredible. And the copper golems sort items by their item names instead of the associated data, meaning we can sort bee nests that have various bees in them. And of course, Hermitcraft uses the player heads mods with all the custom player heads, which got sorted into the slice where the player heads were assigned by my algorithms. Yeah, I guess that's not too bad. I would call that a successful test. It ran for about 6.5 hours in real time and sorted through roughly 72 shulker boxes of items. To get the precise item counts, we'll need to downgrade this world back to 1.21.8 to use our technical mods. There we go, downgrading the world. I don't really care if stuff happens, all I care about is those items. So after downgrading the world, of course, it simply just removed the features that were in the later version, so no copper golems, no copper chests. So what I want to do is grab these containers and move them up to these copper counters that are implemented through Carpet mod. What these counters effectively do is just delete the items and then keep track that it deleted the items and keep a count of all the items. There we go, the hopper counters have stopped counting and we've sorted exactly 51,061 items. So our Copper Golem item sorter managed to hit over 8,000 items per hour. That is just over 90% hopper speed. Well then, that works surprisingly well. I might be having an epiphany about these Copper Golems as they behave consistently enough to be quite useful in redstone contraptions. One thing to consider though is these filters, which can definitely be improved. Somebody could probably develop a much better filter for these purposes, making the barrels much easier to access and much more intuitive to set the threshold. Apart from that, I'd say this is a pretty decent storage for the mid to late game. I'd certainly use it when playing the game casually. If you want to try this storage out for yourself, be sure to grab the world download down in the description. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.